Today, Vladimir Putin, already an accused war criminal, killed at least 51 people in a small village in eastern Ukraine, where dozens of people had gathered after a memorial service. The people murdered by Vladimir Putin in a Russian airstrike today include a 6-year-old child. It was one of the worst Russian attacks on Ukrainian civilians since Vladimir Putin began waging war on Ukraine. Our next guest, Sean Penn, has been there in the aftermath of such attacks.
This was the living room, that was the bedroom, and restroom.
Yeah, this is not structurally sound anymore, is it?
No.
So what are you doing now? Just hearing out the things that can be salvaged?
Yeah, so I actually asked some military guys to help me out. They came here, they clear everything. They try to make sure that we actually can take anything. So I tried to find like really sensitive stuff, like maybe pictures or like some other stuff. Yeah, that's it. Like I just wanted to find something.
What can we help you carry?
Nothing. It's done.
It's done.
It's done. We took everything that we could. That's it. Welcome to my home.
Я бачив, як ракета пролетіла, як вдарило стеклопакет, пролетіла, зірвалася квартира, потім і це все. Потім, як прилетіли 3 ракети, ми вже все ж таки 3-ю ракету вибігли у підвал. Сусіди гуляком з кроваті, хто як був, так якби вийшов. Тобто нікуди не збираюсь з Києва, нікуди не збираюсь з цього комплексу, не напугають нікого. Я українець, я цим горжуся, я можу, це 100%.
Because you can?
Because I can.
Thank you.
Joining us now is Sean Penn, two-time Oscar-winning actor, director, and founder of CORE, Community Organized Relief Effort. His new important documentary about Ukraine is called Superpower, and it is streaming now on Paramount+. Sean, thank you very much for being here. You know, I watched it this past weekend, and in those moments where you take us into these places that have just been attacked, I think everyone watching it, we're sitting there absolutely speechless as we watch these people walk into what was their home. I can't imagine what you're feeling, but you have to say something in those situations. I just felt myself thinking if I was there, I couldn't even speak. What is it like to be in there?
Well, it really brings it home in a sense. I had traveled in places of conflict in the past where, let's say, the systems of government or the sort of cultural or religious aspects of it made it less familiar. And so somehow processing that is different. But in Ukraine, the people, the culture, the hunger, the identification with the need for freedom is so familiar that it's as though you haven't left the best thing that any of us, whether we be on the left or the right or anything in between, identify as Americans as an experience or an aspiration. And so when something like that happens, it's as if it happened here. So like what happened today. Pick the town that your children go to university in, pick the town that your parents work in, pick the town that you grew up. And that's what they targeted and, as you said, murdered all of these civilians where there were no military targets at all. And it's sort of an idea that in the past I've heard it and I've heard it. And here it's just, I guess, it is that immediate direct association with the context of it being exactly what it would be for us. And of course, that's probably true everywhere in its own way. But here, you just can't find any disassociation at all. And so it's truly amazing to me the conversations that are being had in the United States and the sort of betrayal to young people where we told them with all of our Ukrainian flags and solidarity that we would be there for them, that that's who we are. And now with what happened in Congress, with appropriations, with all of the politicization of this thing, the basic goodness of our aspiration, again, on either side of any policy, without following through with Ukraine, we're really telling, that's the fake news. The fake news is not one way or the other on the media. The fake news is that parents and leaders and schools just told a generation, this matters. We will be with them. Year and a half later, this is what happens in Congress.
On Kevin McCarthy's last day, in his press conference, he did something that you're not supposed to do in polite society in America. He made a Hitler comparison, and he compared Putin to Hitler. He compared to what we're seeing, the aggression, to put it mildly, in Ukraine, to Hitler's aggression in the late 1930s and the way Hitler started World War II with invasions, which I have to say is exactly the frame that I have been using from the start of watching what was happening in Ukraine. And through that frame, the question simply becomes, what do you do? What do we do in facing the rise of Putin like this? It is a moment that is a spiritual equivalent of what do you do watching the rise of Hitler, and what did we do, and what should we have done?
Well, in that case, we were led by Europe, ultimately, and really by Pearl Harbor, right? Where we finally actually took stock.
Yes.
I think now we have, if we're to lead, if we're to work with the leading force for good and decency, and even for that matter, the future of our children's global economy, then we should lead with the European countries now, and not the way that not the script that we've been going with, but the script of it's time to stop this Hitler. And you won't find me agreeing often with former Speaker McCarthy. However, it's only someone who wants to. I don't know what that wrestling match of words is all about, but this is clearly exactly what Hitler is, and except he's only at the beginning, and that's when he should be stopped.
When you encounter these people who've just been through these traumas, what you see in the documentary is some of them have the anger right at the top of their feelings. It's right there. And others just have a reaction of, okay, now I have to do this. You can just see them like, and now I have to move forward this way. What is it like when you're around those people who just all, in every moment, all seem heroic? Every cut in this film is to another hero. Some of them, the names, we know their names, Zelensky, but most of them we don't.
Right. Well, I mean, again, something that was sort of something I thought about or heard about, or I think all of us have. You know, how would we be able to summon the courage to whatever it is if the time came? And I think with probably some notable exceptions that are just, have hero in their blood, that all of us would have it if all of us had it. And that's where Ukraine is. None of them are alone in it. And as one of the people who testifies in the film says, they have to kill all of us, and that's why we're not afraid. And that's pretty moving, and something that my country, our country, should really consider is the power, and the healthy minds that come in unity. It doesn't mean that we don't disagree, but in the unity of civil discourse and of genuine positions rather than short-term campaign positions that add up to, well, in this case now, going on 2 years of murders like this, of death, and kind of on the backs of this courageous country.
It is not for an artist to judge his or her most important work, and you, as a film artist, have done some of the most important work ever done in drama with Milk, with Dead Man Walking, taught us things about ourselves as a country and a community. I can tell you, having seen virtually all of your work, for me, this is your most important work. This is something that needed to be done and should have a life that teaches people things they would not otherwise know.
I can say that for me, it certainly is, without peer, the most important thing. And because of that, I think that I did something that maybe I wouldn't normally have done, at least so completely, or I hope people will feel this when they see the film, is that, you know, the artists will often say, you know, I do this for me first, and if others respond, great. Well, no, not in this case. In this case, I wanted to take anyone that would go in the backpack with me and just learn about it and see it happen, and try to, in that sense, completely stay out of the way. You know, people know I'm opinionated. That's going to happen too if you watch the film. But I don't think that that's the center of it. The center of it is to be, you know, anyone in America, and to be able to go and smell the air that is unity and courage in that place at this time. And so, of course, it's without peer the most important film to me. And I find that those who are watching it of all stripes are connecting really strongly to it. So that's, you know, why I appreciate being here, is just to try to, I want to get as many eyes and ears on this thing and hope the discussion moves the dial in some small way.